Hello everybody, it's Raven, and welcome to the next episode of School of Design. This is going to be a little bit of another overview type video because I'm about to start digging into interiors and interior first construction. I'll cover a little bit of that at the end of this, but we're gonna talk about the three main parts to any build, and those are your exterior, obviously. Your interior, should you choose to have one. Some ships do, some ships don't. My build style includes an interior, typically. Not always, but most of the time. And then, of course, your systems. So I've got a few examples here. I'm going to start here on the right, and this is an exterior build where that was the main focus at first. So you'll see this is for the EFSF Anyo, and I'll show you the progression here. So this is, I started with an exterior type build. We're building the shell, and this is how a lot of people like to work. And I think that's partially because we think of drawing things. You know, you draw the lines and then you fill in the lines with color or whatever. And while that is a great way to go about doing things, especially quickly and especially for smaller ships, and when I say smaller ships, I'm talking, my version of smaller, 300 or so, max typically. I tend to find that for the larger ships, it can actually become a problem, when you get up over 500 meters easily. It can become a little bit of a problem because you think you have the space to do things and then you don't. So let's run down the line here. Here is the first, that's the first save that I have on this particular ship. Here's the second, and obviously I've added a lot of detailing here. And if you look in here, we've got some rudimentary systems, and we've also got our interior. This was back when I was calling it the Aries. I've decided that that's not going to be the name of this one, it's the Anyo. But yeah, so obviously there's virtually no systems on this thing at the moment, or at least at this stage in the build. But you can probably tell that I favor the exterior and interior, sometimes at the expense of systems. Not always, but sometimes. A lot of times those are the more important things because I tend to focus on RP ships, things you can walk around, etc., etc. And then over here is the final version, and obviously this one is completely full. We've still got the same interior. It was tweaked a bit. And you can see EFSF Anyo. This ship will be coming out soon. Just quickly for some of you guys, this is actually a tester kind of thing. It was one of the first ships that I have perma jam, and the reason that it's not so highly detailed and everything is because it's kind of fun to make it so that it's harder to actually see in a void space, no procedural background sector, because of the way that it's built. Anyway, so that was sort of the premise there. But the next one I'm going to talk about real quick is the systems first, and I don't do this very often. I think this is really one of the only examples that I have, and I never finished it. But this was way back when AMCs were really the only thing around, and I made this cannon, and this is a high pen cannon. So it's a whole bunch of shots that do 400 damage each in a single line, so high penetration cannon. And so I built the cannon part first, then I started shelling around it. And I'm not really familiar with this. I do tend to build, maybe not systems first, but systems first/second for salvagers. Maybe because I understand them more, or maybe because it's just a little bit more important to me in those instances, because a salvage block is pretty generic, it's pretty easy to do and all that. So this developed over to here, and then I never continued with it. I don't know if I ever will or not, but this is definitely, you can do this. I know KY Computer tends to build like this. I think Zerenica sometimes builds like this a little bit. And I know there are several others that do. And it's a fine way to build. But what I want to talk about really is this. This is interior build first. So this is the Argus, believe it or not. This is the original Argus the very first save that I ever made of this thing. And you can see I started with the interior. We'll actually drop down here because here's the core, and I just started building stuff. And one of the advantages here is, especially when you want to integrate an interior, but you don't want to lose too much in systems, or you don't want to get confined by the shell. This can be a great way to start off, build yourself an interior, and then build the shell around it in whatever shape you kind of had in your mind. And you can actually see that I did that over here. Now this is obviously very old, and I actually chose this save simply because it doesn't have everything there, so you can kind of see how that progression was. In this case, I knew I needed a lot of power. There's a lot of power down there. And so what I did is I kind of built this, built the interior part, and then I went down over here and started adding in power lines like crazy. And then from there, I built the shell and then started filling it in the insides. So interior building first works, and I'm going to show you a few more examples. I would say that if you're really just getting started, and this almost should be an earlier video, and the reason for that is, the reason that it wasn't was a lot of you guys already have ships that you're working on, so I kind of wanted to cover some exterior stuff first, so that you guys could take ships that you'd already built or have as work in progresses and kind of tweak them a little bit here and there, and I figured that would be more helpful, at least at the beginning. And a lot of people are going to come into this having already built some ships and kind of understanding the exterior a lot better than maybe interior at the time. And mind you, these are old, so I'm actually going to be doing really focusing in on how to do certain things with interiors, including some quick tips videos and a fair few more School of Design videos. I'll be covering greebling and some exterior detailing soon as well. That's been a really popular request, so I'm going to get to that soon. But here, this is actually the original Naviri, believe it or not. This is actually developed into that one, and you can kind of see, I built this interior, this part, and I knew that this was going to be to the form up with the exterior. Didn't know how, but you can do a lot of this stuff, and obviously these windows actually changed significantly in this build, and I'll actually fly over to them. And so when you build interior first, it can really be helpful. So if you're starting a new project, I would seriously recommend trying interior first building. It gives you an idea, and I'll explain why in just a little bit more in depth in just a second, but it really gives you the ability to build a ship with the proportions that you want, the shape that you want, with the actual interior that you want. You're not trying to cram it into a frame. And I got a question a while back, which was basically, how do I make sure that my interiors are going to fit inside, my ships? And part of it is I don't. Sometimes I have to force it and make it fit, and that happens from time to time, and then I hide the extra blocks with extra detailing on the ship itself. But more often than not, it's just I've had enough practice now to understand about how big the shell needs to be to fit X, Y, or Z interior in it. And so that kind of helps. Now this, believe it or not, is the Arcana. This is the original save of the Arcana. Well, not the original. This is a little bit further down the line, but yeah, so I actually started here. If I remember right, I started way back over here. And it was the same thing. I actually started with, I think it was, if you cut it right here, I started with this part, and I just sort of built interiors. One of the tricks to building an interior sometimes is if you were to cut this off right here at this block and look in here, I actually had it so I was looking down at it, and I could add in everything and make sure it was all the right size, and I'd slowly build it up, layer by layer on top of each other. That can really help when you're trying to lay out sometimes a semi-standardized floor plan or something like that. It's really, really helpful. So these are just some examples But this was the Arcana. Unfortunately, again, never finished this one. But, you know, it got to the point where I had learned so much by the time I got to the point that I have with the Arcana that I realized that the entire ship was not capable of doing the things that I wanted it to do by the time I'd gotten there. So I just kind of had to scrap the project. Now, this is one that I haven't shown too many people. This is the Artemis, or at least this was the original Artemis, and it has some interesting designs. There's some really cool warping effects here. It makes it look like it's a very interesting way of doing hallways. These are all recessed lighting. I'm going to be releasing a bit of a pack, I guess, for interiors later on, sort of a practice sort of thing for all you guys. Now this was all, I think this was just after Pentas and Tetras, and I really didn't know what the heck I was doing. But yeah, this was a cool build. Anyway, again, interior first, and you can see when you do that, you can actually pare down the interior as well as the exterior, you know, removing the extra blocks and fit in, you know, for instance, shields and things like that very, very easily when you build interior first. So you can actually get it, you know, as efficient as you're going to get with one of these. And actually, let's go down to the throne room, because I like this. So this is the throne room right here. And then way back when, you used to be able to use a wedge to hit R right there and go through. Unfortunately, you can't do that anymore. But that's all right. Yeah, so these are a few different build techniques. I would start with like a small core room and just start build a hallway and kind of play around. You know, it's really fun. It's good practice to get interiors down. And what this does is it gives you an idea of build scale for your interiors. You know, are you going to do the 3-block hallway like these? Obviously, these are old, so I didn't really know. You know, I kind of knew about the whole wedges and hallways thing, but I wasn't very good at it, and I just didn't do it. I needed to. Thankfully, I've gotten better about that sort of thing. But you know, these are little things that, you know, everybody can practice with. So if you build interior first, you know, if you want to make an RP ship with a few rooms for your friends and this, that, and the other thing, build the rooms. And kind of, you know, for instance, with the Naviri, I knew I wanted this long angular shape. So I started building a, you know, thin, long line. And that's what this is. So you build your interior for a rough shape. But then after that, you just start going crazy and adding in all the, you know, extra little bits here and there. And that'll probably help out a lot, or at least I hope it does. So yeah, that's kind of interior first building in a nutshell, and the different, I guess, pieces of building. Now, everybody kind of has their own priorities. Some people really like, you know, systems. Like, that is their big thing. They don't really care about the exterior details. They don't really care about the interior at all, and that's fine. That's one way to build. Now, obviously, this whole series is sort of the way that I build and how you can kind of tweak your builds to make them look a little bit better or have a more RP function in a lot of cases. So, you know, keep that in mind. It's not going to be an end-all be-all for everybody. It's just suggestions, for lack of a better term, or a how-to, in a way, for, you know, these types of ships. Sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained, but I'm trying here. So yeah, this is, like I said, I would give a shot to building interior first, just as practice, because what it'll do is it'll teach you a sense of scale. You know, it'll teach you how to, you know, what size you need to build a frame, an exterior, in order to fit both systems and interior into a ship that is, you know, satisfactory to you. Because, you know, my idea of having enough systems is probably not the same as other people. Some people, you know, really want a crap load of different systems and a whole bunch of different, you know, functionality or really powerful weapons. So they're going to want more space in relation to their interior. And a lot of times they'll build a shell and then add the systems and then realize, oh, I have no room for an interior. Well, this actually circumvents that problem. And it's always a good idea to try out different build styles in general. It's just, it's a good habit, you know. Get out of your comfort zone, try something new. And if you don't like it, that's fair. But you'll probably have learned something by the end of it, and that's the important part. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I'm going to be really digging into interiors pretty soon. I'm going to be trying to come out with these about once a week. Maybe a little bit more, depending. And yeah. So thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you again next time.